everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. I'm Chantal, founder of the Finance Story, and almost every 3 days a week we post LinkedIn lives to share career insights and bring on interesting people to share their journey and what are they building and what are they doing in their careers and organizations. So very often finance folks see the opportunity and gap, but many of us don't go all out and build a tech product. But today we have with us Neeraj, who actually took the leap and is solving a very exciting problem. So to give you a backstory, Neeraj was a finance controller when he identified a gap and launched his own virtual CFO services firm. But he didn't stop there. He saw an opportunity in 2021 with regard to the evolving needs of his clients, and he founded ViTWO.ai, which is actually a tech product designed specifically to empower businesses in the range of startups to folks with a turnover of say 750 to 700 crores and could go scale up. So we are excited to understand his journey. What is he building? What is the opportunity he has seen? And what's the future for Bitco that he's looking at? So Neeraj, thanks a ton for joining in. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
So, firstly, good afternoon, Chantal, and greetings, to all the people who have joined onto this session.
Thank you so much.
So excited.
Yeah, and everyone who's joined in, thanks a ton for joining in. If you have any questions, you can drop in a comment. And I understand it's 2:30, it's office timings. We'll also send you a summary of the article, and it'll be on our website as well. So yeah, let's start our conversation. So Neeraj, very excited to know. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did Bitvo happen, of course, but give us a backstory before that led to the starting of Bitvo.
So the backstory behind starting something like this is basically uh, during my initial years here in Calcutta, being born and brought up here, and being part of KPMG, primarily handling ITC and HUL. So my real progression into the corporate world happened in the year 2004, wherein I moved from Calcutta to Bombay and joined SR. And that is where I'll call it the game changer or the eureka moment. So the initial first 6 months of understanding the dynamics of the corporate world, getting into that grind of understanding the nuances as to how businesses function. So I'll say I was extremely privileged, lucky, and blessed to have that opportunity of understanding the elements of the business. So, right from supply chain to vendor development, materials, operations, engineering, obviously, finance and financial management was the forte. Raised, debt through the conventional route, overseeing operations on the commercial side of it, buying land, setting up infrastructure, and then came in the again I'll say a supplement to the game changer moment was my introduction to understanding the nuances and the dynamics of technology, which was primarily integration of varied technologies. So we had for engineering we had an extended engineering application. For manufacturing we had another application. We had an ERP in the form of SAP. For our customer related needs we had DMS. So how do we bring upon all those elements? So those 11 12 years there at SR, so it was like a full circle, a 360-degree view from a organizational standpoint, and that has really shaped up the way, I can say, the way things were being perceived, observed, and initiated upon into actionable insights.
Okay. And
And
from yeah.
sorry, you were saying something.
So from after the 12, 13 years in the corporate world where you got a perspective of how it works and what are the gaps, you started your virtual CFO services firm. Was it like that?
Yes. So what happened was until we had everything. We had the technology piece, we had people, we had the wherewithal and the bandwidth to spend. So for us, seventh stroke eighth of any month was sacrosanct, because that is where the extensive reviews with relation to the operation board meetings used to happen. And I have been personally subjected to, and the team what I had had a nightmarish experience from 27, 28th of the erstwhile month till 6th, till the time, the books are closed, the reviews are happening. A lot of effort was going on, with relation to preparing or getting us prepared for those reviews. So that was one opportunity, or that was one problem statement which I felt that a lot of time is being spent with relation to playing around with the data. We
Yeah.
don't have actionable insights which can be perused upon, or analyzed better. That was one. For the bigger companies, it was fine because we had everything. But what about the smaller subsidiaries we had? We had subsidiaries at that point in time which were doing, let's say, a top line from 5 crores to 200, 300 crores. uh, okay, for a 16,000 crore company, this was possible because we had all the resources at our disposal. But what about the smaller companies? They didn't had the CFO material, or they didn't had that much amount of technological bandwidth, or
Yeah.
they didn't had enough people. So
Yeah.
this is where we felt, I strongly felt it, between myself and my co-founder Lakshmi, that we need a solution or a service provider who basically can also have a curated approach to service the smaller entities. So that is where ViTWO as a concept got germinated.
Okay, amazing. And what's the name ViTWO? It's a very unique name. And when you talk about ViTWO got generated, you mean to say ViTWO, the CFO, the virtual CFO firm,
Yes,
which
yes,
later
yes.
transitioned. Okay,
So ViTWO is basically coined from two words from Sanskrit, which is Vit, which means finance, and Va is Vyavastha, which means management.
okay,
So that is how ViTWO is financial management.
okay, amazing. Okay, so then, so that was, from what I see, it was 2016. You decided, hey, you want to go out there and create a solution, looking at the gap. So how did you start? How did you start from there?
So again, my retreat from the corporate world back to Calcutta was necessitated. The only motivation and the driving force was to stay close to my parents. Means, parents at this age, it is very difficult, to ask them to move out of their comfort zone. So I came back to Calcutta, and this is where again, between me and Lakshmi, we bounced back upon our original idea of 2009, that can we come up with something like this. So we started very, very frugally with three people, myself, Lakshmi, and one more person, with three clients in the first year. And as we speak, we are currently at around 133 clients, whom we serve, on the CFO space.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah. So, take us through your journey. Like, take us from 2016, to date. How have you evolved? And, how did you transition from I assume you were a virtual CFO kind of a service, which became a tech product along with that. So, take us through
Yes.
that. Many people are into the virtual CFO space, yes, but nobody jumps on to building a tech product. So, you can take us from
So,
2016.
so we initially, the whole idea was that, means, there were certain driving factors. One is the small and medium businesses have always been, something which I've always been excited about. I had an inclination towards, those small businesses.
Yeah.
And if I have to give you some numbers, means, India today is a home to 64 million, MSMEs. On top
Wow.
of it, 49 million, are digitally enabled. 34 million, people, they transact through the e-payment route. 53 billion dollars have been disbursed, to these MSMEs somewhere around 2022. So what we found out was that, can we position ourselves not merely as, solution providers, to be rather as business enablers, work very closely with the management and the promoter group, and
Yeah.
be their partners with relation to their growth story. While all this was happening, again, being someone who has an inclination towards technology, we
Yeah.
felt that there are a lot of avenues which can be automated, and AI or the latest technologies which were, surfacing around that time. And it was somewhere around 2018-19. We thought, why not to have an external agency do some sort of a pilot activity for us with a relation to the CFO related action. Like, if I have to give you, some perspective, once upon a time we used to process 3,000 transactions for a client daily. Means it is humanly, impossible. So you got to have a support of, some technology piece.
Yeah.
So we engaged an external agency, but then over the period we realized that it's better that we should have an in-house team. We should have those capabilities internally, and that is where ViTWO AI started getting, the desired, what I can say, the shape, in the form of, getting people on board, translating the initial idea to them as to what eventually we wanted to do. So idea initially was to develop an accounting piece, but then over the period, with relation to the effort which was required and the effort what we were putting in, we thought that let's develop it into a full-fledged ERP.
Amazing, amazing. So, what was the process of developing this ERP? Like, how do you start? What do you go? And what is the exact problem that this ERP is solving? Yeah,
So when I compare, the kind of application of
yeah,
various softwares and the solutions which we were using upon, whether it is homegrown or international, means we have been exposed to varied technologies. So Tally, Zoho, uh, an advanced ERP like SAP, Oracle, Navision, or in
yeah.
international geographies like Australia, the Zeros of this world, the MYOBs of this world, the QuickBooks of this world. So we had been exposed to, and we had hands-on, experience of using these technologies. But what we found out was that the element of automation and the intelligence is something, which can be looked upon. So I read an article some time back about a US based company called BotKeeper. They were talking about, how can we peruse uh, the advanced technologies into the scheme of things, so that without distorting or without compromising on controls, we can have a solution.
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah. Am I on? Yeah.
So that was basically, yeah, you are audible. So
Yeah.
that was basically the idea. And uh, like, a lot of our clients, let's say if someone is into hardcore manufacturing, what we found
Yeah.
out was, for the sales related actions, it was a CRM piece.
Yeah.
For operations, they had some other solution.
Yeah.
For the people's related management, they had an HRMS tool. For accounting, they were, working upon some other solution. So it was a bit chaotic, and there was a major synchronization issue. So we said, why can't we blend all these elements of a business transaction chain into one solution, add pretty advanced automation, inculcated with the advanced technologies, whether it makes sense or not. So that is where ViTWO AI got its shape, and we came up with this idea of having a full-fledged ERP.
Okay, so basically you've stitched all together the individual components which were available, the individual tech pieces, and you've made one simple solution at the. It's not simple, but you've made one product at a click of a button which helps the client. That's what you're offering. Okay, so
Correct.
can you so I'm really curious to understand like what is the different what are you like? Can you tell us can you tell us about your product basically? Now, delve in a little more. If I want to buy the product, say we make 2-3 crores in revenue, and there's somebody who makes 100 crores in revenue, right? So, is the finance function your client, or who is your client? What is the solution?
So the business per se is my client.
Okay.
So let's say I get a lead. So my business development team starts working upon, the lead. They curate the lead, and then the process of, onboarding a client, having a relationship, concluding the contract, and if there are desired cascading resources required with a relation to servicing that client, that entire journey is being handled and catered to by the client. So irrespective of the size, irrespective of the sector, means we were very clear that we wanted to make this solution, it has to be sector agnostic. So whether you are a 2 CR company or you are a 600 crore company, so the capability what the system has is pretty robust, comprehensive.
Okay, okay, cool. So, would you want to elaborate a little more on the capabilities? Like a little, I know you've highlighted that, but a little more on what exactly are you, going to solve if we use ViTWO.ai? What is it that
Okay.
you're going to do? Yeah.
So I'll take the case of, let's say someone is into hardcore manufacturing. So what
Yes.
happens is I receive a particular inquiry on an order from a customer. So my relationship initiates, and before that, let's say typically what we do is, whenever we are initiating a relationship with either a vendor or a customer, we will expect some details of that prospect or that relationship to fructify and eventually become either a vendor or a customer. In our scheme of things, I simply need the GSTN of that vendor or customer. The system is intelligent enough, it will, since we are connected to the GSTN portal, we pull everything from the GSTN portal, and along with that we have a compliance dashboard for that relationship. So
Okay.
I am aware of that, whether the person is compliant, whether the person is not compliant, whether I should be going ahead with the relationship or not. That is one. Once you are onboarded, the moment we exchange the quotation and the order processing starts, so all my back end requirement with relation to materials, with relation to the status of the deliverable product, everything is being backtracked by the system, and exactly that where do you stand and by when you will be able to conclude this order or this delivery. So this entire transaction change from order to cash, from procure to pay, from record to report, the system has everything.
Amazing.
Similarly, if you are into retail, so you
Yeah.
operate in means an environment wherein inventory traceability, inventory control, or if you have a POS related mechanism, all those capabilities and functionalities are inculcated in the system. So once you are onboarded on a ViTWO AI platform, whether it is your CRM related needs, whether it is your operations related needs, whether it is with relation to your compliances, reporting capabilities, everything is being handled by this system.
Okay. Okay. So basically, it's a one-stop shop what you've built.
Yes,
Okay. So if I use this, I don't have to go and use a Zoho or something. Like
correct.
I don't have to use anything else. It's all under this.
Yes.
Oh wow, this is amazing. Cool. So Neeraj, can you tell me what is your journey building this? Right? Like how long did you take to build it? And as a finance person, how did you think of the tech aspect, the AI aspect? Did you outsource it? Did you build it inside? Did you raise funds? What is it?
So, as I was mentioning it to you, means I was fortunate, and I'll call myself blessed,
Yeah.
that during my erstwhile association, I had to go through that grind, and that grind was an enriching experience of understanding the nuances as to how the the business functions. So initially, the idea was to get it, developed from someone else. But given the, what I can say, the robustness, given the kind of comfort we wanted, because eventually we are talking about financial numbers, and we cannot have that element of risk to be dependent upon someone. So 2019 end, we concluded that we need to have our own team. So the first and the foremost challenge was to get good data scientists, because this is pretty complex, on the machine learning and the kind of tech what we have. We are talking about NLP, Llama, BERT, and various recognizers. So the once that was onboarded, and a few development team members who were basically full stack developers, uh, our biggest challenge came in as to how do we develop the engine and the pipeline with relation to the data parsing related activity. We followed the erstwhile conventional route of pattern matching, grid recognition, but then we went ahead after failing at least on several occasions. Means for the initial 6 7 months we failed miserably, and means it casted apprehension and doubt in our minds whether whatever we are talking about, whether this is doable, or it is better that you have a data parsing tool which is available, but that was too over the top, to be factored into our scheme of things. So with a lot of mentoring through our closed acquaintances and associates who are based out of United States, they work for, you name the big giants, they held our team, they became mentors. So we were eventually been able to conclude the data parsing related avenue. Means, like, if I tell you, means the system is intelligent enough that you upload a document, the system will pick all the relevant inputs which is required with relation to the succeeding process. Like let's say I'm processing a bill, so what I'll do, I'll perform an audit, I will then key in the required details with relation to processing the transaction. Over here with the system, you simply upload the document and the system is intelligent enough to perform all sorts of simulations, checks, controls, validations. And while we are talking about the business transaction chain, the accounting is happening at a back end.
That's amazing. Cool. So you had to go through the grind of really building a solid product, and it took you a while, and it took you
Yes.
a while to figure it out.
So I'll say from 2000 to 2020, and then the biggest shocker was COVID. Everyone was under lockdown, so I call it a blessing in disguise. Means each one of us being stationed at their respective places, it
Yeah.
gave us a lot of what I can say, not exactly a free time, but then we were able to divert a lot of our energy and time onto building up the data science piece. And then came in the process of coding, um, applying whatever we wanted over the next 1.5 odd years.
Okay.
So
So this was
2000, yeah.
no. You continue.
No, you were saying something.
So 2000 onwards, 2020 onwards.
2020 onwards till 2022 and 2023 early part, we were ready with the version, and we actually offered it with a no commitment basis to a closed user group who actually use the system. And our expectation was that there would be a lot of inputs, there would be a lot of complaints, there would be a lot of inputs and suggestions. So June, July, August last year, we gave it to a selected few, and around September end or October early part, we started talking about the product, because the kind of positive inputs and the feedback what we got,
Yeah.
uh, the pat on the back was that people who used it during June, July, August, they started using it from April 23, and they said, Ki, boss, we have taken advantage of the solution, and we don't mind paying you with effect from 1st of April.
Wow, that's incredible. Nothing better than that, right? That's
Correct.
amazing. Yeah, cool. I have a couple of more questions, but we have this question from Asif. He says, "Is it compliant to UAE and USA authorities in terms of taxation automation?"
So, okay. So, Asif, thank you for the question. I have no qualms in sharing that if you are able to crack the compliance piece here in India, cracking the compliance piece in USA and US is far more simpler. So what we have done is this was being developed considering the application from a global standpoint and an per user point of view. But
Yeah.
yes, certain tweaks are required because the complexity associated with relation to the compliance avenues in India are far more confusing, very detailed. So yes, we can certainly help you out on the compliance piece on the UA and the US standpoint as well.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, Asif. When we were chatting, you mentioned that even you're mentioning it right now. That you're building this for a global market. It's not only India per se, right?
Correct.
So when you're talking about global, like every country has different laws, regulations, tax, as Asif rightly mentioned. So is your tech stack like already ready for it, or you will build it on the go?
So, okay. So our idea initially was that we wanted to have this penetration as far as the Indian geography is concerned, and we would be targeting, the global geographies to start off with Australia, UAE, uh, the South Asia Pacific region, because we know them pretty well because we have hands-on experience as a part of our CFO service.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do something for the other geographies maybe in the second and the third year, but the blessing in disguise is that over the last 60 days, the continuous grind of the system on the for the Australian territory is being done. And I'm very happy to share with you that we already have concluded a strategic partnership with one of the largest CPA firms based out of Australia. And we would be ready with the Australian version, considering the compliance piece, in another 30-45 days time. The work has
Wow.
already begun.
This is incredible. That's great. So now, how big is this market opportunity in India? You mentioned there are 64 million uh, MSMEs and there are 49 million who are digitally active, right? So the
Correct.
opportunity is pretty massive. So when I have to compare ViTWO, say to a Tally, like can't other larger competitors, which with a lot of money, build something similar? Is it a possibility?
Yes, that is certainly a possibility. But then, it is always better, when you have more and more people. Eventually, at the end of the day, it is businesses at large who would be benefited out of
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
But yes, with a relation to the plans what we have, with a
yeah,
relation to where do we stand on an as is where is basis as of today. So there
yeah,
are four yardsticks, which I'll not say I'll brag of, but
yeah,
yes, they are basically giving us the confidence. One is the comprehensiveness of the system. Second is basically the element of automation and intelligence what we have built in. Third is the inclusiveness and the ease of usage. And the fourth one is basically the cost effectiveness.
Amazing. Can you tell us the costing? What's the cost like? How is the pricing model?
So for the Indian, setup, we are basically talking about, 1 lakh rupee per annum per license. And each license will have, 13 user IDs, which is basically six transactors and six approvers and one super admin.
Okay. Damn cool. Okay. And you all have how many clients as of now? And what's your client acquisition strategy? How difficult was it in terms of acquiring clients and convincing them since you started with MSMEs? Or was it easier said than done?
No, it's certainly not very easy. India is not, a very easy market to tap. So as we speak, there are 208, license as of yesterday who are currently using the solution. And since we have only, started last year, somewhere around September, October,
Yeah.
but what gives us the confidence is by virtue of the spiral effect we have been able to create. Like,
Yeah.
let's say if the finance story becomes a ViTWO AI, client, so
Yeah.
all their vendors and customers are also connected to ViTWO AI. So organically, those people are approaching us that we have, perused the system and the offshoot in the form of this partner app. So we are
Yeah.
seeing the benefit. We are connected to the platform, so we would like to. So on the client acquisition, I'll say LinkedIn has been, a major contributor, because our idea was not to use it as a tool for selling, rather to educate,
Yeah.
build up a relationship. And we are getting a lot of, inputs from LinkedIn. And there are other social media platforms, and obviously means, there are referrals, there are partners. And Australia is, something like that, means the kind of partnership what we expect, the results which it will yield, in another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
This was not expected.
Yeah. That's fantastic. When you talk about product building, Neeraj, especially as with someone from, I understand you understand all the technicalities, and that's amazing. That's a strength, right? You build it together, right? But when you're building a product, right, do you need like a co-founder who's a tech guy? Because most of the times when you're a finance person building something, it's always said, hey, get a tech person who's your co-founder because you don't understand stuff like that. So did you navigate that?
Yes, that basically was the idea. And in fact, the way I look at it, okay, the kind of the complexity associated with this solution means,
Yeah,
if I have to tell you, means, one is the AW infrastructure and the application of their technology. On top of it, the kind of languages we are working upon, it's Python, it's PHP, it's Java, C++. So it's an assimilation of those languages.
yeah,
On top of it, you have the technology on the mobile related front.
yeah,
So one person, might not have, that much amount of, I'll say, competency and capability with relation to understanding all those elements. But yes, I'll say, the kind of team what we have got, okay, I might be the founder, but they are equally, stakeholders in the entire journey.
yeah. So having a
So
strong team helped.
it's a great team. Means I have seen the progression, I have seen how people have evolved, and it's not merely, an employer employee relationship. They own it.
That's great. That's great. And so Kolkata is home ground for you. Like no thoughts of going to Bangalore. Like everyone's moving to Bangalore for the talent per se.
So okay, certainly yes, Bombay, Bangalore is very much on the cards. In fact, we are looking at, Gandhinagar as well. We are talking, and that's very much there on the cards. Maybe 4 months, 6 months down the line, you will have, a presence of ViTWO in these geographies. But we
Yeah.
certainly have a limited presence in Bombay. But yes, Bangalore is very much on the cards.
Okay. Sounds cool. So, Neeraj, anything else you would like to share with us, which probably I've missed asking, like anything from your journey uh, that you would want to share with other finance professionals, because today you can't just be a finance guy. You have to be a finance guy who understands tech, who understands AI. There are a lot of finance people who want to build and solve for so many problems that they observe, but they are not building because, hey, you're labeled as a finance person. So, what is your take on it? What do you think? And what problems more do you see that,
So first and foremost, the way I look at it, don't call
yeah.
yourself as, a mere finance professionals. First and foremost, start rebranding yourself as an enabler. There are
Okay.
enough problems. Okay, we have tried to solve a bit of a problem, but then, when I look upon, avenues like, on the compliances, concerning customs and DGFT, that is one area which can be looked upon. A lot to do with labor laws, contract management. Those are basically the areas which can be looked upon, and given the finance function per se is fully much abreast with what's happening in and around the organization, and there is something which can be worked upon on that front. Second, look for problems, get a decent, team who understands and shares that vision, pivot it, and then if you feel that, it is something which is workable, go ahead, because if you're able to create value, there are people, who will be more than happy to engage and have a relationship with you.
Okay. And you don't need funding and all of those things. You can start with you need capital, right, for this because you
you
also
need
hire
you
data
need
science.
capital.
You need
You need
capital.
capital, and honestly speaking, whatever we are talking about, there is a considerable amount of spent, which has happened over the last 3.5, 4 odd years. Okay, Calcutta gives us some advantage, on that front, but then, still, building an ERP without having the adequate, resource in the form of the capital at your disposal,
Yeah.
uh, might go haywire.
Yeah.
But since, given the kind of, involvement or the positioning I had, whatever I was able to, what I can say, service with relation to the deployment,
Yeah.
uh, we could manage it.
Okay, okay. So because you had a ongoing business like the virtual CFO services which you were providing, you actually used that to fund
Correct,
this, which was a
correct.
considerable amount of money. It's not, it cannot be it cannot be 10, 20 lakhs. You need money to, so you can make mistakes, build, hire the best folks, technology, all of that. Okay.
So
So,
yes, it is basically a culmination that our existing CFO business has been, the perpetual, source of fueling the aspirations what we had. Plus, whatever the money which was required, it was all being funded by myself and by my co-founder.
okay, okay. So you didn't want to raise funds, like the thought of raising funds, and are you guys going to raise funds?
Yes, that is there. And because with relation to the upgradation and the kind of things what we have in our mind, means like our calendars are blocked with relation to the product upgradation and the eventual concept of the real AI, wherein the system performs all the actions on its own. We call it as a robo officer. We already have done a pilot and a prototype for one of the process. We would be requiring something, but then those are all parallel actions. But right now our focus is purely to go and hit the market, and the hit the market in a big bang way.
That's amazing. I'm sure you will go into it. When I'm talking about, nowadays cybersecurity is something which we have to consider, right? You read in the news, even the largest of the large companies are facing this issue, who are spending billions of dollars, right? So, how do you look at that in terms of ViTWO.ai? Like, that would be a major concern for you as well.
Yes. So first and foremost, the most important element is, since this we are using the AWS cloud capability and its infrastructure, so
Yeah.
that is one level of comfort. And on the security front, we have used various encryption methodologies like RSA, algo, hashing, AES, and advanced SSL. And given that banking is an integrated feature and a functionality of the system, so we have gone through that grind on data security and the compliances avenue. Means those 6.5 months what we spent on onboarding ICICI Bank onto the platform, it was tiresome. Means back and forth email exchanges. We want this level of security, we want this layer of SSL certification. So we have gone through that grind. And given, means eventually we are talking about financial data, so it
Yeah.
has to be secured.
Okay.
And that again, a supplement affirmation is basically a clearance from our Australian counterparts, our Australian partners. They had also undertaking those checks and those measures by getting an independent study done. So on that front, it is pretty secured. But then yes, there is always an avenue which can be superimposed upon the current framework and the structure.
Okay, okay. So when we are building such products, right, is there a certain kind of certification that is mandatory? Like, for instance, when you build a food product, you have to take approval, say, from FSSAI, something of that sort. So, is there something like this at the moment in India?
Yes, you have multiple level certification which is required. We have gone through that grind. And whether it is on security, whether it is with the relation to having the banking infrastructure or the banking features being inculcated, those certificates are required, so we have got it inculcated.
Okay,
But
that's
again, depending upon geographies, this might call for some sort of a revision or some sort of a supplement, which we are privy to, and we are okay with that.
okay, cool. So to summarize it, you're building a product for from anyone, from say somebody with 1 crore turnover or to 700 crores in terms of turnover can use this product. It stitches everything together. So one-stop solution, right? Great
Yes.
security, certified banking integrated into it, and that's ViTWO.ai, and you're working on higher AI functionalities to models and functionalities to make it what you expect it to be. So that's about
Correct.
it. Okay, and the pricing is 1 lakh for a year irrespective of size, or
So
it's a
irrespective
standard.
of size, but what happens is for the larger entities, they opt in for multiple licenses. So it is
Okay,
on a per license basis.
Okay, but what if somebody has fewer transactions and some have, like a large organization will have multiple transactions in terms of processing? So,
So they will offer multiple licenses.
okay, 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 cool. So that's about it. I have this question because since we are also trying to work on a product, right? Like everyone has to engage, has to have a tech stack to whatever they're doing. Otherwise, it's not scalable, and everyone wants to build something scalable. So for me and everybody is watching, if we want to build a product, right, and we want to, how do we start a journey? Like, okay, first you have to find a problem statement. Yes. Then you have to hire somebody. Okay. And then how is the iteration? What next did you decide? Okay, this is fine. Would you want to just?
So as you rightly mentioned, identify a problem, have a team, and then it's about first and foremost developing a prototype, get it validated through a closed user group, a
Yep.
lot of inputs, and be very very open. Means unfortunately what happens is, a lot of people who are into the technology space developing a product, for them it is as good as having your own child. Your child is the best child in the world until unless you expose him or her to the external environment. There are inputs coming in from the school teachers, so be very very open to comments which could be both positives as well as negatives.
Yep.
uh, Perform a lot of iterations, be aware about what's happening in and around,
Yeah.
and once you are done, then maybe release a MVP version. And
Yeah.
then once you have the initial, what I can say, a revenue stream coming in, then go ahead with relation to a full scale development. It's a journey. Means it cannot be that okay, I have done it, and it's fine with us.
Yeah. And you got to have grit. As you said, you faced multiple times where it was not working out and you all thought, hey, let's move on. But you all persisted and it kind of worked. So you could be having billions of dollars or you could just be bootstrapped. There's a way to make things work. So I think that's a great lesson. Cool, done. So, Neeraj, I mean, it was great talking to you and understanding what you're building at ViTWO.ai. Even though I'm a finance, like a CA, like as you know, I asked you very basic questions on tech, but now I've kind of figured it out. So that really helped, and it's very inspiring to see what you're building. That to bootstrap, because when you have millions of dollars in the bank, it's not so inspiring, right? You can do whatever you want. So this is great, and thanks a lot. And everyone who's watching, if you have any questions, you could ask us right away, or you can connect with Neeraj whenever he's on LinkedIn. So yeah, that's about it. So thank you so much for the time, Neeraj. Anything else that you want to add?
No, no, it was a pleasure. Means, when, Satya told me about you, that, by virtue you being a CA, and that too, you have carved a niche on the publication and the media related thing. I said, okay, there are certain people, I always used to think that by virtue of me being a CA, CSCWA, when I talk to people that I'm building a technology piece, so they said, boss, what are you doing? Means, a CA doing a technology. So for me, it was a similar feeling that a chartered accountant is looking after the publication and the media related avenues. So kudos to you. Means, you guys are doing a fantastic job. I have gone through some of the videos and the content what you put up. It's very inspiring.
Thank you so much. I mean, Satya has also been a guiding light for me. I worry him a lot, and he's always encouraging me. So when I connected with him in 2021, and he saw so much possibility in what I'm doing. A couple of others as well really believed in me, but he's like, since we know him, he's like he already believed in what I was doing. So that really helped me to think differently. So having a mentor, having someone who understands really helps. So yeah. So we have one more question from Asif. He says, any tips on client acquisition for CFO services?
So this is with relation to which geography? Means, is he talking about only UAE or he's talking about India?
You could suggest whatever, both.
So it has to be, means you got to create or carve a niche for yourself on certain platforms. You got to have engagement with those people. And I can assure you, if you spend your time, energy and resource on that front, this will become an organic process. And obviously, means, there are avenues of getting affiliated with a lot of institutes and the associations who help you out.
Yeah.
Like for us, I always tell, means, our existing clients are our brand ambassadors, because they appreciate the value which has been created for them.
Yeah. So that's one way. That's one way to go about with it. Cool. He's also asking for USA. Have you gone into that
Yes.
area?
So we have a couple of clients, means, we very recently started this relationship on the CFO front,
Yeah.
and now we will be talking to them on the AI related piece. But then, first and foremost, we were very clear that let's target and have some decent numbers as far as the India story goes. The
Yeah.
blessing in disguise is now Australia, so we are concentrating upon that as a market. But yes, UAE is pretty much on the cards, and it should happen pretty soon, because we do service, on the UAE geography as well, quite a few clients, on the CFO space.
Okay.
So
Any
we
challenge?
are, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
So any challenges in terms of client acquisition you have faced, and how have you dealt with it? Like, or has it been referral, and that's how it's worked for you?
Not exactly a challenge, but it is a process which consumes some time. You got to have the patience. Means it cannot be, an instant or a 30 days affair. Generally it's a cycle which entails over a 60 to 90 days period. And yes, you got to be, engaging with that person. Someone from your team has to have that perpetual engagement.
Okay, cool. So from a team of three, you guys have grown to a team of
Now we are a team of 113 people.
what? Oh my God, this is incredible. Bootstrapped,
Yes.
amazing. Amazing. That's great. So, and what is your biggest, like, as someone who's bootstrapped, I'm sure you've put in all your investments into this. This is something that, you know, so what are the biggest challenges you face? What, what are the biggest challenges as an entrepreneur running something, building a tech product?
So what happens is, Shantal, what this is basically a journey. Means there were, days we were pretty over the top excited with the end result, and there were, days, periods, and months in between wherein the desired result was not happening. So you start questioning, whether you did the right thing, whether you have already pumped in so much amount of money. But what we collectively as a team, we felt, yes, this is something which is doable. And when the success stories, I don't want to name a global ERP,
Yeah.
people ran, both the solutions for a good period of 6 months. So they completely shut off, that global ERP, and they are now full-fledged using the ViTWO AI.
Wow.
And they in turn are, referring it to their, community, their customers and vendors, and those people are calling back, and they're trying to rely upon us, for their needs. So that gives us the confidence. But yes, there are apprehensions, there were doubts, and you start questioning, means what is the need. Every 30th or first of the month you get a credit notification, your dash 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 account has been created with a 6 digit 5 digit number, that has stopped, and you are pumping in money. So those doubts, and that's part of, an entrepreneur's life and a journey. Means you have
Yeah.
to look upon, what is in store for you in the near future, and you somehow we were prepared.
Yeah.
And I had, what I say, the privilege, the experience of starting up in the year 99, for a limited period of 3.5 years. So I'd
Yeah.
gone through that grind, so I was mentally prepared for all that.
So at some, you knew you want to again restart. So you've been through that, you worked, and then you
Correct.
got. Okay, okay, that's cool. So this is so interesting, Neeraj. I mean, it's really fascinating. That's a great team, and thank you so much for your time. And everyone who's watching, thanks a lot. Do connect with Neeraj if you have any questions. And yeah, that's from me.
Thank you, Shantal, and thank you everyone who has joined, and who who had heard me, and thank you, the finance story, for allowing us, this opportunity to talk about the product.
Thank you. We've got one more question on my phone. They said, how do you handle marketing? Many, like for instance, I've not seen you on your story. I've not seen you. You're getting what I'm saying. As soon as anyone launches a product, even if before it's a hit, it's everywhere. And you have a team of 113 people and, you know, built a solid product, expanding into Australia. So, what is your marketing strategy?
So, as I was mentioning it to you, Shantal, the whole idea was first and foremost satisfy ourselves. Satisfying ourselves was first and foremost give it to a closed user group, let people start using it. Now,
Yeah,
whatever you're talking about, all those avenues, all those elements, you will find us in the next 30 to 90 days.
yeah.
We will be only talking about ourselves. I
Okay.
think we have gone through that phase or that grind of
Yeah,
validating as well as getting validated.
yeah. This is inspiring. This is really cool. So, thank you so much. And everyone, thanks a ton for joining in. And yeah, all the best, and we'll stay in touch. Sounds
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Thanks, thanks, guys.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye. Thanks, Neeraj. Bye. See you.